Well, thanks so much for tuning into the market wrap. I'm Niraj Shah Nickey Mirchandani, and it turned out to be an eventful day of trade simply because the bank Nifty kept on trying to pull the markets lower, and there was a bit of a tug of war between that and the broader end of the spectrum in certain key heavyweights. Yes, we ended lower, but I think uh, a number of traders would, on the long side, might actually come out happy with the kind of trade that happened today. Let's try and figure out what worked. So look at the screen today, and you will see that a large portion of banking stocks and financial names cracked in the pressure today. So IndusInd Bank was the top loser, yes, but ICICI, HDFC, Axis, etc., all of them came under pressure in the session today. I would believe that the FI numbers will look negative today. Reliance Industries was weak today, so down about 1%. Against that, what gained? Some bit of defensive positioning out there. Adani Ports, clear. I mean, had been beaten down so much that a bounce was inevitable. But Britannia, Tech Mahindra, TCS, Sun Pharma, Infosys, HCL, Reddy's, HUL, Zipla, you can see the defensive bent of the market. Remember, the whole of last week, real estate as an index cracked big time under pressure, 5%. And FMCG defensives was up about 2.5%. The only green spot in the trade last week from sectorally. And I think today we're seeing more of the same. Just shows the bent of the market currently. And again, something that we highlighted in the trade setup today, that select contra trades might actually work beautifully because the quant indicators were saying that could happen. I think that we've seen some part of that today. Let's wait and watch how it shapes up during the course of the week. It's an expiry week, so VIX may rise a little bit from the levels that it is at currently. But for now, things look slightly more sanguine than what they would have last week. Nicky Johnson with some of the key movers today. Nicky, on the large cap side first, what stocks stood out?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a day where defensives and Adani stocks, they did typically well because you saw Adani stocks not just outperforming the large cap index, but also that was the case in the broader space as a whole. But what I'd like to speak first is about BPCL because there was this Indian Express report which suggested that government is going to be divesting the stake that they hold in the company at a price of around 700 to 750 per share. At this time, the value is around 430, 440 per share. That's the level that you're looking at. So it indicates a good 50, 55% kind of uptick. It's planning to garner around 80,000 odd crore from the divestment, and the company is achieving or is stepping closer to that process as a whole. So clearly, some of the traction coming in for BPCL. But what are you picking up from the broader space, Niraj?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, BPCL certainly deserved to be the stock in focus. So I think it was very interesting the way it shaped up. Bring up the broader end of the spectrum, and I suspect that the trade would have looked slightly better than what it looked for the large caps, maybe. The market breadth, as you can see, positive. 290 stocks advancing to 205 declining. A bunch of stocks did well. By the way, the entire Adani group, without exception, did really well. Enterprises, Total, Adani Ports, we already highlighted. Adani Transmission and Adani Total Gas Limited, we already spoke about. Adani Transmission, Adani Green. Every Adani group stock did really well for itself in the session, so really strong show there. Shipping Corporation of India was up about 13%. There were stocks like Godrej Properties, which were up about 7%. So there were stocks which did really, really well in trade. What didn't do well? ICRA, after having a mammoth rally 20% on Friday, I reckon in part it went up because Parag Parikh Financial Advisory Services bought a boutique mutual fund, bought ICRA, about 2% of ICRA on Thursday, and therefore there was this resultant upmove. It quickly got sold into in the session. It's an illiquid stock, so what happened? Dixon, after the split, really went up very swiftly and has come off very swiftly as well, down about 5% in the session today. The NBC didn't quite have any kind of major reactions to the price increase, Edelweiss down about 3%. So those are a few names that sulked in trade, but you largely believe that the day belong to the winners at the broader end of the spectrum. Nicky, what are the stocks that stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to talk a little bit about NMDC because you've written an extensive piece of how the price hike, the company resumed the price hike trajectory after a sharp cut, but we did not see the bearing of it on the stock, probably because DC iron ore prices have been moderating, and also Odisha players started getting back to the normal routine of producing as much as they would. Mines and Mineral Development Act has come in where, there's the scope of captive miners again going ahead and setting the iron ore. So there is a bit of, the fundamentals have been shifting overall for the iron ore industry, because of which you aren't seeing the amount of traction that the stock would have otherwise garnered. But what I would also like to speak about is Godrej Properties, because that stock has gained more than most in 3 months. Third best performer in the Nifty Midcap Index. It snapped the 6-day losing streak. The volumes have doubled the 20-day average volumes, and the RSI at this point of time is still at 44, indicating that the stock is not as much as in the overbought territory. But there have been concerns overall in the real estate space. We are seeing the inventory levels rising. We are seeing the absorption levels going lower, because of which select picks, right? Something like Godrej Property does well in trades like this, but it remains to be seen how does the overall space stack up. Adani Green, of course, Adani Group does not have a reason to rally, especially when you're looking at an expiry week. But the subsidiary Adani Green subsidiary had received a letter of award for 300 megawatt wind power project, which is for which it put in a tender long back, and some amount of traction, perhaps also bidding on account of that. But Neeraj, what are you picking up? Any IPO specific theme or the subscription numbers that you'd like to talk about?
Not really. I think thankfully we've come to the end of this whole primary market offerings, because I think it left a lot more people confused. I think all eyes would be on yields for the course of the week, Nikki, and of course from our market's perspective on the expiry. So I think that is something we'll be watching out for. What are the global markets telling you today?
Not a pretty picture at all. The last time I checked, European markets were trading in red. And the US stock futures also were indicating of a negative start coming in for the Wall Street. So there is a cautious undertone coming in, and it's weighed by the plans for further lockdowns to combat a third wave of COVID-19 cases. And Germany is the latest European country to consider extended, restrictive measures out there. You have France, which is already announcing new measures. And adding to the worries, confidence is the safety of AstraZeneca vaccine, which has taken a big hit in Spain, Germany, France, and Italy. According to EU government, survey published, which was on Monday, there were reports of few blood clots being fine after the vaccination. So it remains to be seen how does this whole situation stack up. But that's all that we have at this point of time for you. Thank you so much for tuning in.